In the earliest days, before time had begun to count itself in seasons, there was no death. Life stretched endlessly, as endless as the sky above the plains, as endless as the rivers that flowed through the grasslands of the world. All beings, humans, animals, birds, and even the smallest insects, were a part of this eternal cycle. When the moon waxed and waned in the sky, it would disappear for a time, but everyone knew it would always return. The world, you see, was in harmony, and nothing was ever truly lost. In those days, there was no fear of finality. The rivers sang, the wind carried the voices of ancient beings, and people lived knowing that the sun would rise, the moon would shine, and life would always begin anew. The animals and humans lived closely, learning from each other, sharing the land. And at the heart of this world, watching over it all, was the moon. The moon was wise. It knew the secrets of the universe, the cycles of the stars, and the patterns of life itself. It was from the moon that all creatures understood the nature of life's rhythms. The moon was the guardian of these sacred rhythms, teaching all living things that life, like the moon's own glow, would dim and return again, forever. One day, as the moon gazed down upon the earth, it felt a stirring, a need to communicate with the beings below. It sensed that a great change was approaching, a shift in the world's balance. And so, the moon called for the swiftest messenger it knew, the hare. Now, the hare was not the wisest of animals. No, far from it. The hare was quick, nimble, and clever, but it often let its own impatience guide its decisions. But in those days, the hare had never been known to cause harm, its mischief was always light-hearted, harmless, then forgotten as quickly as it had begun. So, when the moon called for the hare, no one thought twice about it. "Hare," the moon said, its voice echoing across the skies, "I need you to take a message to the people of the earth." The hare tilted its head, curious. "A message? From you, moon?" "Yes," the moon replied. "Tell them this, as the moon disappears, so too will their lives. But as I return, so too will they return. Death will come, but it will not last forever. Like me, they will rise again." The hare nodded eagerly, its ears twitching with excitement. "Of course. I will deliver your message. I will run faster than the wind and tell them right away." The moon watched as the hare bounded away, its swift legs carrying it across the fields and through the forests. The moon's light touched the hare's fur, making it glisten silver as it raced toward the earth. But as the hare ran, it began to grow restless. Its mind, always jumping from one thought to the next, began to wander. The moon's message is simple, the hare thought. So simple that there's no need to rush. In fact, I can take my time. And so, instead of delivering the message directly, the hare began to play. It dashed through the tall grasses, startling the birds into flight. It chased after its own shadow, and it leaped into the air, twisting and turning for the sheer joy of it. The sun was warm on the hare's back, and the earth smelled sweet with the scent of flowers and rain-soaked soil. The hare, in its revelry, forgot the seriousness of its task. It forgot the gravity of the moon's words. By the time it remembered, night had fallen, and the moon was rising again in the sky. Panicking, the hare rushed to the nearest village, where the people had gathered to hear the moon's message. Breathless and eager to finish its task, the hare blurted out, "The moon says you will die. And that is all, once you die, you will never return." The words fell like stones into a still pond, sending ripples of fear and confusion through the gathered crowd. The people stared at the hare, their faces pale, their hearts heavy. Death? How could this be? Until now, life had been endless, a cycle of seasons and moons. And now it would simply end. The hare, realizing too late that it had made a terrible mistake, turned and fled into the night. Up in the sky, the moon watched, its bright face clouding with anger. It saw the confusion and sorrow the hare's message had caused, and in its fury, the moon struck the hare with a bolt of light, splitting its lip and marking it for all time. From that day on, the hare would bear the mark of its mistake, its once proud mouth now forever split in shame. And so it was that death entered the world. At first, it came slowly, like a shadow creeping along the ground. The first to die were the animals, their bodies lying still beneath the stars, never to rise again. Then the people, too, began to grow old, their once strong bodies weakening, their spirits leaving for a place unknown. The world grew quieter. The songs of the rivers and the laughter of the wind seemed fainter, touched now by the weight of loss. Life, which had once been an endless circle, was now a line that came to an end. And yet, even in this new reality, life continued. The people mourned, but they also celebrated. They remembered the lives that had come before, and they honored the ones who had gone. And the moon, though saddened by the hare's mistake, continued to rise and fall, its light a reminder that while death had come, the cycles of life still endured in other ways. To this day, the Sun people tell this story, and they look up at the moon with both reverence and sorrow. They see in its phases the memory of what life once was, and they accept, as all people must, that death is now a part of the world. But they also know that the moon will always return, just as memories of the ones they have lost will live on, forever illuminating the path forward.